Hey guys, today we're going to talk about high contact communication from an athlete point of view and a coaching point of view. What that looks like through programming, what that can look like through just communicating with the coach and the athlete, and the way that we go about things here at Performotion and the differences that we do while communicating with different athletes, acknowledging different traits, different trends in their performances, and being able to empathise with them at the same time, depending on what they need.
Okay, so the first thing that we're going to go over is actually what is high contact communication. I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding in the industry that high contact communication means that your coach or a coach is available 24/7 to chat with the athlete whenever they want. So that for us has led to burnout, feelings of not getting what you need from the athlete, and athletes getting a little bit, frustrated when they don't get responses from their coach that are meaningful to making them become autonomous. What we mean when we're talking about high contact communication is a collaborative approach with the athlete and the coach. So the athlete and the coach come to an agreement on what works with communication for them, and then they set boundaries together to be able to get the best response from both the coach's performance and the athlete's performance. On a weekly basis, high contact communication might look like the coach and the athlete are speaking multiple times a week on the designated time that they know each other is available to speak. So let's just say we've got an athlete, they're international or in the same country. The coach might put out a boundary or an expectation that that athlete will contact them post-session or send their videos during the session, and the coach will respond when they feel that they can get the best out of their own performance. So some coaches may respond during if they do have the time, or usually after with technical feedback on lifts, and then goals towards the next session. So communication in general is kind of like this big umbrella term for building a relationship with your coach and athlete. As a coach, what we're looking for when we're asking for communication, really from the athlete, is just honest feedback. We just want to know where you're at, how it feels, what you're looking for with your training, what you're working on with your training, and if you feel like you're moving towards the common goal that you set with your coach. If we don't get that from a coach, if the athlete doesn't provide honest feedback with how they're feeling, we don't know what's going on with the communication, and that's when a coach and an athlete relationship can get stuck in a rut. So to reiterate, basically what we're looking for with communication from the athlete is just honesty with the feedback, and then returning towards the goals that were set with your coach.
The communication from an athlete and coach point of view is going to be very collaborative in a sense where the coach needs to know how the athlete's feeling and the athlete needs to report how they're feeling, because if that's not happening, then as a coach we can't make programming decisions that are going to propel the athlete forward to be able to make the adjustments needed. So from an athlete point of view, it's sending through your squat and not just sending the load or the RPE. It's also saying what you're feeling, how you felt coming into the session. If there's external variables that could be at play that are making you feel tired or fatigued or just not feeling as great in that session. And from a coaching point of view, it's that collaborative effort with them as well to understand that, to be able to make the adjustments that are needed, to know what's happening with their life, if there's anything going on there, and then what's also happening with their programming. So for example, I like to see athletes writing notes in their program, because each week when I'm going to update their program, I read these notes, I can make the adjustments that are needed, or then reach out to the athlete if I haven't already heard this mid-conversation with them during the week, and ask them how that's going and what exactly they were feeling while I'm updating their program, so that I can make the necessary adjustments moving forward, so then we can then start to progress again if we are running into a wall at the time. So as a coach, if I'm getting zero feedback from an athlete, I'm almost blind writing their program. So I'm not going to know how an athlete's feeling, I'm not going to know what they're going through, I'm not going to know how they're moving if all we're getting is videos. Like, I'm going to see how they're moving, I'm going to be able to watch that, but if I'm not getting any contextual feedback, then it's very hard to make programming decisions and adjustments moving forward. So then we're just running blind. We aren't able to see, or we aren't able to project things. We aren't able to come up with an extended period of goal, a timeline in which we want to hit things, and then things just become really hard because the athlete may not be able to make decisions moving forward, and we may not be on the same page with that collaborative kind of communication, that collaborative effort with the program to be able to make things really just gel with each other.
For example, I'll give an example of like what communication expectations might look like on an off season and during a prep. So on an off season, we don't really term off seasons and on seasons anymore. So I'll just say out of competition prep and in competition prep. So in out of competition prep, we might actually have a heightened communication expectation with the athlete because we're working on things, technical issues, finding trends in performance, and because we have that time to be able to do that. An example would be fixing a squat or fixing center of mass. The communication expectations that we're looking for there would be that the athlete would send their squats, number one, provide feedback on how the squats feel, number two, and then tell the coach how they feel about that. And it's really hard sometimes because if you're, especially with something like center of mass and squats, there's not only that to work on, but then there's the building trust and rapport and all those things to be able to, for the athlete to provide that honest feedback. So in those terms, my example would be that the coach would be feeling like they're giving more and the athlete would be receiving more feedback. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we've got in competition prep. So communication in competition prep changes in terms of it may become not less, but it may become more direct and may become more blunt and may become more towards one thing, which is the performance on the platform. So, you know, from an athlete's perspective, that's when we're looking for autonomy with load selections, autonomy with movement, autonomy with their own trends and performance, which would have been worked on during that non-competition prep time. I'm going to go through when we do and when we don't action items of communication. So backtracking to where I was talking about non-competition prep to competition prep. It's really easy to get stuck in the weeds with communication. And that's where setting expectations from the start with communication are really important, and then explaining to the athlete when it is the right time to communicate and when isn't a time to continue to communicate about the same thing. We like to think about the big ticket items are taken care of before you go into that competition prep. So we're going to action those big ticket items, which might be injuries and niggles, technical issues, programming trends in performance, and probably sharpening your communication tools between the athlete and the coach to start with. Once we've done those things, like picked up what we need to work on with the athlete, we action those items straight away and we come up with a goal on how we're actioning those items with the athlete. So returning back on what I said before with center of mass, after the competition, you set a goal with the athlete to say, okay, we really need to rebuild this squat. We're going to work on the center of mass. That's going to be the focus of what we're doing from now. And other things, even though you're still working on them, they may not be as open in the communication file with the coach.
So when we're not going to action things that have been communicated or being sent through is almost when we're getting too close to competition. So there's no point in making any technical adjustments. We're not going to be like, you know, I will need you to do this, because they're just going to create too much noise in the athlete's training, then that's just going to interfere with the progress and the program that we're doing and the performance that will happen on the platform. So from that, what we'll do is usually we'll touch on that early on. So if we have a specific goal that we want to try and work towards when we get to the platform, that will be touched on almost at the start of the peak. So what is the plan here, how we're going to move forward, and how we can create that autonomy early on in the peaking process, rather than an athlete having to send you their last warm-up or something saying, what should I hit next, or this is where I'm going, and then as a coach being able to be there all the time, because it's just not feasible to be able to be available all the time. Our role as coaches is to guide athletes to be more autonomous with their training. So there is going to be those technical things that's going to make the athlete think, and they're going to need that kind of feedback. But there is going to be an education process as well, where it's educating the athlete through their program, asking them what we want from them so they know from a feedback point of view, and just like what we're kind of expecting from their program, what days that we're trying to get them stronger or to feel their strongest, and what days aren't. So that just comes down to the communication again, and setting those expectations on the program, on the block, and what we're doing.
To wrap it up with this communication segment, I think it's really important to remember as a coach and as an athlete that you're not going to communicate well with everybody. It's normal. We all have athletes that we communicate easier with than we do some others. If you don't feel like you're getting the communication from your coach that you need, speak up, because they may not feel like they're getting the communication from you that they need. So it's it's good for an athlete to say, hey coach, I feel like I'm not getting the communication that I need right now. Is there a reason why? Do you feel that I need less, or do you feel that I'm communicating too much? Then the coach may come back with we're in the middle of competition prep, I can't communicate, these are my boundaries during competition prep, I'm unable to provide XYZ because of. And that helps you guys to come back together and be more working together to create what you want towards the goals. What I will say is, again, it's okay that two people don't communicate quite well. If you find that that is you with your coach, and you find that you've tried and you're not getting what you need from the coach in terms of communication, find a coach that you gel with on a personality first, and then find out what type of athlete they gel with as well.